Today's podcast is brought to you by Introduction to Online Business Made Simple, a 6-part audio course that teaches you how to get started with your online venture. Find out more at usingyourpower.com/course.
Welcome to Using Your Power. I'm David Andrew Wiebe, and joining me is
Maveen, Kaura.
How's it going, Mav?
I'm doing good, man. I'm excited this week.
Yeah, man, I'm powered up too.
All right, so what are we doing?
We're going to take a look at why you should share your why with others, or should you share your why with others? And we're going to be looking at the opposite perspective we presented last time.
Awesome. So yeah, we looked at the yes already. So this time we're going to say no, why we should not be telling people our why, because there are some really good reasons, and I'm going to go through them and we'll have a little discussion on those. So getting started on that, one of the reasons I say you should not be telling people your why is you stay focused on your dream and goals and focus on just, on what you're needing to do versus trying to spread the message of what you are trying to do.
That can be a problem sometimes, right? And I've heard that before. It's almost like we fulfill our desires by just talking about them instead of actually going and doing them. So we have to go and take action on what we believe in. And yeah, sometimes sharing our why can lead to that result of sort of that false sense of fulfillment.
Right, exactly. And that's what moves right into my point number 2, actually. So when you tell other people, your brain actually starts to believe that it's actually already achieved what you've spoken, right? So a lot of times we'll say, I'm excited about going out tonight. And let's say you don't end up going out that night, but because you told yourself that you were planning to go and you've already kind of told your brain that, right? Your brain doesn't necessarily know the difference between the truth and a lie, right? Your subconscious mind just knows what it's been told, right? So when you tell it, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to go out and achieve my goals, but you don't, and you tell other people that, you almost give your mind a false sense of hope, and it believes it actually has achieved, even though it has not achieved any of the goals or even potentially started anything of what you've said.
Yeah, it's so weird how the mind works sometimes, and maybe people who are listening to this have experienced this before. It's like when you're really in love with somebody and you begin to think about, hanging out with them and what that would be like and spending time with them. And sometimes it's like half imagination and half real, especially like if it's a relationship at a distance, right? Long distance relationships. And then you begin to imagine that and you're like, no, I thought we were together last night. And the other person's like, no, I haven't been back in a month or whatever. Like you can really begin to imagine things as if they've already happened. So you're absolutely right, Mav.
Yeah, the perception of time is just amazing with the way our brain looks at it, right? I mean, I've had interesting things when I've woke up after, dreaming, and in my dream I had a continuation of whatever I was doing prior to going to sleep, and I believed, I was like, wow, I had a really good night, and I was like, wait a minute, no, I actually dreamt that and actually did something else. So your brain does have a way to keep connecting things even though they may not be real.
Yeah, it's true.
So, I think you'd enjoy this point here, David. We've all experienced this. We've gone out and, we get excited about something that we really are passionate about doing. We tell one of our good friends, and the first thing that happens is they put down our dream and they discourage us, right? And we've all had that happen. So, that's one of the reasons you should not maybe be telling people why you're about to, what your why is out there.
Well, exactly. I think it's very vulnerable to begin talking about that, especially if you're touching on a background that is, somewhat difficult or challenging. I think we all have that in our past to a certain extent, right? A difficult childhood, or parents that didn't love us, or teachers that abused us, whatever it might be. Some of us have that dark past. And so when you really become vulnerable why you're doing what you're doing in that moment, you can open yourself to criticism.
Exactly. And, no one wants to be criticized right off the starting, point, right? We go out there telling people because we're super excited and we want to have encouragement. And as soon as we have discouragement, sometimes we're like, maybe they're right. I shouldn't be doing this. And, your negative self-talk about yourself kicks in, and you start saying, this guy knows me, or this girl knows me best, or my friend knows me best, or my parents know me best. Maybe they're right. Maybe I can't achieve all the things that I've been telling them I want to, right? So it can create a really bad self-image on yourself.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things it's better to be aware of rather than not, because you might go out and share your why anyway, right? So especially based on some of the things we talked about in the last episode. So if that is the case, then just be aware that you may open yourself to a lot of unwanted and unneeded criticism. And generally it is from people that you know better and know most, like your family and friends.
Exactly. The other number 4 reason I was kind of thinking why you should not be telling people your why out there is, when you tell people your why, you start comparing your levels of success or lack of level of success to the levels of other people that you may look up to. And as soon as you start telling people and you start then comparing yourself, you may get discouraged because you're not able to do it fast as they were or as good as they were able to. But you don't always know their full story that it took them to get to that point, right? We never really see all the different steps it took. All we hear is about the guy that became, or the girl that became famous the day after, but we didn't realize there was a 10-year journey in between, right? So if we don't tell people the why, you can really just stay focused on working towards your goals and your dreams and not worry about telling people, and that way you don't have to compare yourself to people as well.
Yeah, and hopefully that doesn't factor too heavily into your decision making, at least from my perspective. I don't think we want to come from a place of comparison, and your story is your story. It's nobody else's story, and that's why it's unique, and that's why you're unique, and that's why what you do is unique. So it's important to understand that side too.
Absolutely. My last point here I had was it kind of attaches into, if you tell people, they may discourage you, right? And one of the things what happens is when you do fail, if you do fail, what happens is people will say, hey, you know what? I told you so. I told you were going to fail, right? And it's not really very encouraging to hear that. So, and you get negative on yourself and you're like, man, I shouldn't have even told anybody, and it's kind of that same thing as what you say to yourself. I shouldn't have told anybody. And that's kind of why we're putting this show together, right? There's a yeses and nos. In this case, again, no. But what happens is if you don't tell anybody, what you can do though is you can go out there, you can try to do something. If you fail at it, hey, no problem. Then you can adjust what you did incorrectly and as many times as you need to without hearing those discouraging words. I told you so.
Well, and in a way, we've had firsthand experience with this with network marketing, right? Because you get in, you're excited, you want to share your dream with others, you want to share this new cool business concept that you discovered, and other people shared it with you, and you want to be able to do it just as well as they did with you. And they, what you're not aware of at the time, of course, is the people that have more experience have training in sharing how the business concept works with others in a way that makes for a good, solid pitch. But I went full force into it, and so people were like, you in retrospect, right? They wouldn't have told me at the time, but they said, you were really beginning to sound like everybody that was sharing their dream in that network marketing organization. Isn't that scary? Like you can't actually share your why in a way that is, unique to you or because of who you are or your background or the things that happened to you earlier in life. So it's no longer unique. It's now something that everybody's sharing with everybody, and it doesn't work.
Well, exactly. Especially when we were in network marketing, one of the things was, they want to know what everybody's dreams and goals are. And again, there's the few big things that everybody kept focusing on. I want a big car, I want a big house, and I want a beautiful wife or a husband. And these are the same things that everybody was talking about, and that's the same things everybody kept sharing. So really, everybody's why was never really unique. No one ever said, hey, I really want to be done with this business. I want to go travel the world. I want to go help millions of people around the world. And that's about all I really want to do. Or I want to make music, I want to make albums. And when you did tell people that, you got discouraged from, I know what your story was for sure, David. And on my end, people didn't really want you to go travel and go do things because you had to be dedicated to your network marketing business, right? So it was really tough to tell people your why.
I think it was more of a personal realization that, the goals that I had, because they encourage you to create your top 100 list or something like that. Maybe it was top 50, but you write all these goals and dreams down. And I was like, yeah, but like, what does having, being on the cover of Guitar World magazine have to do with network marketing? Like, how is this actually going to bring that dream about? And the answer is, well, money. I don't know. Money is going to make that happen for you. That seems like, you haven't really earned it or something. And what really sucks, I think, is you're going to get it from both sides. I told you so, right? If you quit, then your family members are going to tell you, I told you so. You were never going to make that. You were never serious about that. But guess what? You're also going to get it from people that are in network marketing too. They're going to be like, oh, I told you so. You were never a leader.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the things, even if you do tell people what your why is, and if you don't tell people your why, people are always going to tell you, I told you so, regardless. And people are still going to potentially discourage you or encourage you, right? Depending on who you're hanging out with, that is going to make a huge difference as well, right? If you're hanging out with the right people and you tell them or don't tell them, they're still going to encourage you regardless of what you're doing. One of the things I wanted to bring up was, it's not written down here, but I was thinking about this as we're chatting, is, with the advances in technology and how fast things keep keep changing. You can tell somebody your why. Maybe you have an idea for a cool app and you tell somebody, and because the technology is so easy out there right now, is I tell you, for example, David, I have a cool app that just fills up glasses of water for whatever, right? And I'm just looking at your glass of water. So I couldn't think of anything else. But I tell you about it, and then you go ahead and hire somebody to develop the exact same app, right? So it's really tough to share your why there, because the ideas are so much easier to steal and copy and complete.
Well, it's definitely an interesting thought, and I think that it goes back to kind of sharing your ideas versus sharing your why. Making that distinction might be important for you, like sharing your latest idea with everyone. Although I think, you are in most cases safe to share it with many people because they either don't have the time, the determination, the motivation, the passion that you have to develop that in the first place. But that's something you might want to hold closer to the chest than your why, because your why is really just, your story. You're connecting what you do with who you are and the reason you are who you are. So
here's an interesting thought I was just having too. Do you think someone can steal your why?
Yeah, they can. It doesn't mean that it'll really suit them. It doesn't mean that it'll be a perfect match for them, but they absolutely can take your story and make it their own.
Right. I think people can steal your why, right? I mean, a lot of people out there don't have a clue what they're doing or why they're doing certain things, right? I know we all typically go to work 9 to 5, because we have to, right? We really don't have our why yet, right? I know a lot of times when we have our why, we start getting passionate about what we want to do versus what we have to do, right? I know a lot of people, same thing when you were talking about network marketing, right? The reason a lot of people said, hey, I want a real cool fancy car or a really big house was because they were only copying the things that they had heard because that's the way they feel they could fit in, right? And they felt that if I take your why, I can also fit into your group or your network or whatever, right? So I do believe people can steal your why, and that's why I believe it can be important not to tell people or certain people what your why is for that exact reason.
I just don't think it's going to be that effective because it's not going to hold as much personal resonance as going back into your story and figuring out why you are the way you are. So to me, yeah, steal or why is maybe more like fake it till you make it is what you're talking about there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think it's going to be as effective if you just steal somebody else's why. Maybe it's enough to tide you over, but it's never going to be at the core level of your heart. It's never going to have that kind of resonance.
No, for sure. I mean, that person would never become you, right? If you told them your why, absolutely not. But, in the same respect, it is a cool way to, even if the person were to steal your why or had the ability to steal your why and the reasonings behind it, or got passionate about your reasonings behind it, I guess, it's a great way to connect with somebody, I guess, in this way, right? So now maybe you have two people going out and doing the same thing and trying to change the world or working on dreams or goals or whatever it is, whatever that why technically is. Maybe your why is to see, a fancy car in your driveway, and there's no other reason because maybe you had a real beaters all your life, and now your why is I really want that cool car because it'll make me feel great, right? I don't know what your why is or what your reasons are, but sharing them with people can be beneficial, but can also have huge repercussions as well.
Yeah, I can see that side of things too. Any closing thoughts, Mav?
Not really, David. I think we've done really well. I think the last two episodes, if you haven't heard the why you should share your why with others on the yes episode, go take a listen to that. That was a previous episode. I think that, there's some really good reasons that we've presented on both sides. The biggest reason, sometimes not to share your reason, I believe, is because of your brain will believe what you say. So, just be careful what you're saying or who you're saying it to or presenting your ideas to, because if you start telling people, a lot of people, you sometimes your brain or you just give up because you say, hey, you know what, I've completed the task, I've told a lot of people, but you never really went and completed the task.
Great points, Mav. So find us at usingyourpower.com, subscribe, leave a comment, send us a message, download your free audio course, and also check out our new course for helping you build your business while you're there.
Absolutely. It's at usingyourpower.com/course.
Talk to you next time.
Have a great day.